In the second part of tonight's class, we discussed Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, and how do we do it on the most basic level, on the most spiritual level. Hope you enjoy. Please share.
Of course, all of this is sort of talking on the level between you and God. There's many things we do between man and man where we have to walk the same road, but we also have to ask forgiveness for people we harmed, including the dead. It speaks about going to the grave sites to ask forgiveness from the dead if you harmed them and never had an opportunity to ask forgiveness during their lifetime. Getting to Erev Yom Kippur, Tuesday. You're supposed to eat a lot. It says, who eats on Erev Yom Kippur and fasts on Yom Kippur, God considered it like you fasted 2 days. What's a lot? So we're told 2 meals. What means a meal? In Judaism, a meal means bread. So to have 2 meals with some type of washing, you can have one for breakfast if you want, that's fine. At 2 points in the day to eat that meal, the custom is to eat kreplach. I could be both, or at least for sure in that final meal, what we call the Sudas HaMafsekes, that final meal before the fast. Like everything in Judaism, kreplach has tremendous spiritual meaning. The common spiritual understanding of it is you have a dough, inside is meat, which we're told to avoid Erev Yom Kippur because it might be harder in terms of digestion. So you put chicken or meat wrapped up in a white dough. What we're hiding, okay, Eliza, you're glad. Now I'm glad if you were always wondering this, now you're going to find out. Tonight was a good night for you. The meat symbolizes God's judgment. It doesn't symbolize our sins. It symbolizes God's judgment. The dough, the whiteness of the dough symbolizes God's kindness. So as we're preparing these very delicious little dumplings, we're really saying, God, you have judgment. What kind of things that we deserve to be judged on? Cover it all over. Cover it in that whiteness, in that purity of your kindness. This was what I was asking God all Rosh Hashanah. I said, I know you're remembering. I can't say forget. I could say forgive. Focus on our good and forgive everything else. So the white covers the meat. The kindness covers the judgment. Why are we fasting? We're fasting to be detached from the physical, to let the spiritual shine. So it's good to make your fast as easy as possible. We're not trying to make the fast hard. Do whatever tip you know, probably all know tips, to make it an easier fast. So the fast helps you detach from the physical, but doesn't make you so weak and headachy and drained that you can't do all the work you're supposed to be doing on this day. It's actually considered perhaps a fast. We're going to fast on Yom Kippur. There's not a definitive answer, but it's definitely discussed by the sages. Because it's not a fast of us being so low, how can we eat? It's a fast expressing we're so high, we're beyond eating. So we might or might not be fasting on Mashiach as well. Yom Kippur, we're told, is the day of one person, one place, one time. The one person was a high priest, representing all of our souls. The one place was a Holy of Holies, and the one time, of course, is Yom Kippur. So when the highest priest goes into the Holy of Holies and Yom Kippur, it's a synergy of person, place, and time of oneness. And that's what we're told each one of us can achieve now. Each one of us is that personal high priest going into that place of oneness in this time of oneness in Yom Kippur. Why do we need Yom Kippur? We just did all this on Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is our submission to God. We're enslaving ourselves to God. We're committing to be God's subjects. Be our king. We're your subject. Yom Kippur is the idea of fusion, the idea of becoming one with God, God's child, God's spouse. It's good to, before, give lots of charity. Definitely sweetens the judgment. Before candle lighting, light a Yizkor light if that's relevant. And then on Yom Kippur itself, the main service is fasting. Meaning, if you are fasting and it's so difficult for you that you can't do anything else, so just fast. And know that's how you're serving God. Because that's what God wants. Obviously, do whatever you can beforehand to make your fast easier and more doable so you can do other things. But if you can't, and all you can do is lie in bed all Yom Kippur, the main service is fast. Plus, pray and Tehillim, Psalms. I hope people remembered. I hope people said lots of Tehillim over Rosh Hashanah. I know we really pushed it last week. I'll just go back. I had a question. What do we mean by us being that high priest? So we're told that every Jew in potential is the priest of God. The Rambam says this, that every Jew, if he commits, is on the level of the priest, even the high priest, to be able to go into the Holy of Holies. I think it says like by Mashiach. The Baal Shem quotes this very often. that like every Jew will be like that high priest that could go into the Holy of Holies, but not just on Yom Kippur, on any day he wants, because of course it's Mashiach. So we're from this concept based on the verse, "V'atem tiyu li memlechas kohanim v'goy kadosh," which was told by the giving of the Torah, that every Jew really in potential is a priest, even if you know you're a Levi, even if you know you're Yisrael. But all of us in potential are the priests. What does a priest mean? What is the Rambam saying, that every Jew could be like a priest? Like the high priest? A priest means someone whose life is dedicated to God. Just as the Jewish people compared to the rest of the world, the priests compared to the Jewish people whose lives are just dedicated to serving God. So we all have that in potential. You could say, nah, me, but all of us have this core inner self that's that holy. It's interesting. The Bob Rebbe says that every Jew at some point in their life is a tzaddik. Your tzaddik experience could have been 5 minutes or 20 years. But every single Jew at some point achieves tzaddik status. This is a long discourse. I'm not going to go into explaining the whole backstory, but basically because it's sort of contingent in the resurrection of the dead is this tzaddik status. And we all are having the resurrection of the dead. So we all are achieving it at some point in our life because we all have such purity inside of us. It just doesn't always come out. So we all have that priest, high priest, inner dimension, absolute commitment to God, that by place of oneness inside. Oneness, me and God, one. But it's often hidden. Yom Kippur pulls it out. Yom Kippur is the oneness of time. It pulls out that oneness inside of me being that high priest, and that oneness of place. Now again, where is the place now? Where is the temple now? In my heart, in my mind, in my soul. Every one of us is a walking temple of God. As it says that, V'asuli mikdash, v'shachanti b'socham. Make for me a tabernacle, and I will dwell in them. There was only one tabernacle. Make for me a tabernacle, and I'll dwell in it. What's the in them? So the sage says, in them is inside every single Jew. Every single Jew is God's tabernacle. So I am that temple. Inside me is that high priest. And Yom Kippur is the time to make it happen. So when I'm synced in, I pull out that piece of oneness inside of myself, that place of oneness inside of myself in this time of oneness. And that's really what the service of Yom Kippur is all about. So we were saying, fast, pray as much as you can, say Tehillim as much as you can. If you cannot say the whole prayers, you just thumb through that master and you're like, no way. Or your children won't let you, or your weakened state won't let you. Make sure to say the confession. The vidoy, the confession, is the most important prayer of the day. We actually say it over the whole Yom Kippur 10 times. But make sure whenever you can, at least you say that part of the davening. And when you're saying that confession, and in general on Yom Kippur, think about the future. I said Yom Kippur is your acceptance for the future. Ideally, you regretted the past yesterday, Monday night, Tuesday. So Tuesday and Wednesday, focus on the future. Focus on your service of God in the year to come. Connecting to Eliza's question on what's that oneness piece we're talking about? It is the only day of the whole year that we have 5 prayers. On a regular day, we have 3. On Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh, a holiday, we have 4. And in Yom Kippur, uniquely, we have 5. The 5 prayers are parallel to the 5 levels of our soul. The highest prayer, the highest soul level that we only pray on Yom Kippur is the Ne'ilah prayer, right? On a regular day, we have Ma'ariv, Shacharis, Mincha. We get Musaf, holidays, Shabbos, but on Yom Kippur, we get Ne'ilah. What is an Ne'ilah? Ne'ilah, if you're only going to go to shul for one thing, that's what I would recommend going for. If you're up to it. If you're not, of course, stay home and fast. But if you're up to it, it's the most spiritual part of the day. And as I said, each prayer is accessing another level of soul. So Ma'ariv, Tuesday night, is your first level of soul, called Nefesh. Shacharis is your Ruach. Musaf is your Neshama. Mincha is your Chaya. We're going up the levels of soul. And the highest prayer, Ne'ilah, is the highest level of soul, called Yechida. Ne'ilah, the word Ne'ilah, Na'ul, means locked. And usually it's understood as it's written clearly in the prayer, the gates are getting locked. We gotta push in. Our degree is being sealed, right? It was written on Rosh Hashanah. We tried to improve it over this week, whiteout, T-Pex, little asterisks, making it better and better and better. And Yom Kippur, it's sealed. So the gates are locked. Push in whatever you can. But on another level, locked really expresses this is the point of the day. It's like you and God are in a room together and it's locked. No one else is allowed in. That's the intimacy. That's the fusion. That's the marriage. That's the potential closeness that is happening then. And some people, Neela comes and they just feel it. And some people don't. It depends on a lot having to do with your soul and probably a lot having to do with how you fast and maybe your background, what you experienced as a child on Yom Kippur and Neila, what pulls out from you the energy. But it is potentially one of the highest experiences we can have ever. And we have the opportunity to have it every single year. But if you just are like drained and waiting for the fast to be over, you're normal, that's fine. And as long as you're fasting and committing to God, that's beautiful. That's Neila, that's Yom Kippur. And then we have every year 4 days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot. 4 days, again, everything is very precise, parallel to the 4 letters of God's most holy name of 4 letters. Actually, the day after Yom Kippur is called God's Nomen, which means God's name. So this is all having to do to God's name. We're supposed to be very busy, which we are. We don't have to worry about that part. Very busy getting ready for Sukkot, for Sukkot. It's considered, we're told, like the Sheva Brachos. If Yom Kippur was the Neila, that moment when it's just us and God together in the room, that intimacy, that oneness, now we have a week of celebration, a week of Sheva Brachos. That's Sukkot. So what's the goal? Joy. Take in as much joy as possible. Pack in the entire year. The entire experience of this month, Rosh Hashanah, the days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, the days between Yom Kippur and Sukkot, the entire Sukkot, Hoshana Rabbah, Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah. It's all like, envision a suitcase. You're just, you're packing and you're in a rush and you're just throwing in and somehow the airline you travel on doesn't weigh. And they just let you put in more and more and more and more. That's what we're doing. It's like a lot of work. It's draining. It's intense. But then we unpack this over the entire year. So our goal is really to fill up that suitcase, stuff it up with all the energy we can, all the spirituality we can. So an entire year when life is life and things can get difficult or draining or just blah, we can unpack. We can take out this energy. It just opens up and we can be revived and feel good, great, alive in our relationship with God, alive in ourselves as people, and rejoicing in our life. So that's really what we're trying to do on the Sukkot holiday. We're trying to get joy. Obviously, we do a lot of spiritual things, we do a lot of physical things, and it's all for the goal of joy. Again, we just connected to God on such a level of intimacy, and now we have a week to celebrate Shabbat Brachos. Ideally, it's important to bless the Lulav and Esrog every day, Sat Shabbos, of the week of Sukkot. Ideally do it in a sukkah, again, for Kabbalistic reasons. It says sukkah is enormous, intense spiritual energies, what's called Kabbalistically makifim debina. You'll trust me on this. Very, very high energies. The work of the lulav is you draw the energy inside yourself. So when you have this spiritual energy of the sukkah, and then you do the mitzvah of lulav and esrog inside of it, you're drawing that energy in you.